F1 is a dangerous sport with many fatalities in its history, but there are those who had a brush with death but managed to come through the other side. The Schumacher name itself is a brand on its own. People were wondering whether the 7-time world champion was human when he was at the peak of his powers. 1999 was a memorable year for the German. He was in sensational form just before the British Grand Prix. He had led over 2,000 laps and already had 2 championship titles under his belt when we saw he was human after all. During the Silverstone race, Michael saw his life flash before his eyes. Just as he was taking over his teammate Eddie Irvine, his brakes failed, making him drive off track and into the barricades at over 200 miles an hour. He was extracted from the wreck, and we feared the worst in what was a sickening crash. Thankfully, his only serious injury was a broken leg. That meant he'd be out for the rest of the season, but in a great comeback story, Michael bounced back to win 5 consecutive world championships with Ferrari between 2000 and 2004. Another brush with death would turn out to be much more serious. In 2013, he was out skiing with his then 14-year-old son Mick when he fell and hit his head on a rock, leaving him unconscious. He was airlifted to the Grenoble hospital where he underwent 2 surgeries before being put under a medically induced coma. He suffered severe brain damage, but the true extent of his injuries remain a secret. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem as though he'll ever fully recover. A legend who did recover from a horrendous accident was Niki Lauda. While entering the 10th round of the 1976 F1 Championship, Niki was 23 points clear of his main rival James Hunt. Leading up to the German Grand Prix, Lauda already had his doubts about the safety of the track. He even led a boycott of the race. He, however, lost by 1 vote, meaning that the race was still on. In the race, the track was wet in some areas, making most drivers opt for wets. But after driving for 1 lap, most drivers opted to pit for slicks. It was during the 2nd lap, while everybody tried to make up for the lost time, that disaster struck. Niki was making his way through a tricky left-hand turn when his car suddenly turned right, hitting the earth bank and bursting into flames before bouncing back on the track. Other drivers managed to save Niki from the burning wreckage, but he'd already received plenty of burns. He was taken to hospital where he received treatment for his injuries, as well as having his lungs vacuumed due to smoke inhalation. James Hunt ended up winning the 1976 championship, but Lauda soon returned behind the wheel, showing incredible bravery and one of the best comebacks in sporting history. Another example of an F1 driver who managed to cheat death is David Coulthard. The British talent had just come home from a victory at his home Grand Prix at the Silverstone track, after beating his teammate Häkkinen for a 1-2 McLaren win. He was on his way to Nice on a chartered plane with his fiancée, the fashion model Heidi Wyszynski, and his personal trainer Andy Matthews when disaster struck. One of the plane's engines failed. He recalls seeing a light flashing from the cockpit and knew something was wrong. But since it wasn't his first flight, he stayed calm. That's when the co-pilot came to inform them that they'd be making an emergency landing at the Lyon-Saint-Denis airport. The pilot had made the mistake of flying too low, and the tip of the left wing accidentally scraped the ground, making the nose ram into the ground. Both the pilot and the co-pilot died instantly, while the 3 passengers survived. David recalls the 3 of them escaping the wreckage. Firefighters were already on the scene as they'd already been alerted by the pilot of a failed engine, but were unable to save the pilots. 4 days later at the next Grand Prix, he raced for McLaren, finishing 2nd after his teammate Häkkinen. It was after the race that he underwent a deep scan that revealed what he had to deal with physically during the race. It was discovered that he had a bruised right chest wall and 3 cracked ribs. He downplayed his injuries to be allowed to race during the weekend. A true fighter. When talking about true talent and versatility, Robert Kubica had it all. The man raced in both the World Rally and Formula 1, 2 of the most competitive motorsport platforms. However, he probably should have stuck to F1. Before his rally crash, Kubica was involved in one of the worst ever F1 crashes during the Canadian Grand Prix in 2007. As he tried to overtake Jarno Trulli's Toyota in his BMW Sauber, he accidentally clipped his wing at the back of the Toyota, making him lose control. Records show that he was subjected to a ridiculous 75 Gs of force after that impact, which sent his car tumbling all around the track before landing on its side with all 4 wheels torn off. He suffered a concussion and a broken leg, but this wasn't his worst car accident. In 2011, during the World Rally Championship, he lost control and ended up running into a side railing. The railing went straight through the car and out the back. The whole of his right side was badly injured, including a partially severed right hand. He was airlifted to the hospital where he received emergency treatment that saved his life. He returned to rallying the following year, but it took him 8 years of rehabilitation to return to F1. It was an incredible comeback for near death, but unfortunately, he didn't have the same speed, and is now a reserve driver for Alfa Romeo. The Brazilian star Felipe Massa was truly a force to be reckoned with in F1. He never quite managed to win a championship, but with 11 wins, 41 podiums, and 1,167 career points, he had a phenomenal career. He also had one of the freakiest accidents we've ever seen. During that year's Hungarian Grand Prix, the Brazilian almost lost his life to a suspension failure on Barrichello's Brawn GP. Yep, it wasn't his own suspension failure. Barrichello was on a flying lap when his rear right suspension failed. A spring came loose and flew into the air. Felipe, who was a few seconds behind, was focused on the road and had no way of knowing what was just about to happen. The spring hit his helmet right above the left eye, fracturing his skull and making him lose consciousness. How unlucky is that? His Ferrari drove straight off the track and crashed into the safety barrier at almost 240 kilometers an hour. As viewers, we had no clue what had happened. Did his steering fail? Did he fall asleep? It was very odd. Only after did we know the shocking truth. He was taken to hospital where he made a full recovery and was able to race for Ferrari again the following year. You knew this next one was coming. Let's talk about Romain Grosjean. Roman might be the luckiest man in the world as he managed to escape from one of the most horrific accidents in Formula 1 history with just a few burns. Watching it live, you just knew he was dead when his Haas car turned into a fireball. The horrific accident happened on the opening lap when the right rear wheel of his car clipped the front wheel of Daniel Kvyat's AlphaTauri. His Haas hit the metal barrier, snapping in half and bursting into flames. It was estimated that he was driving at about 192 kilometers an hour before he hit the wall. Investigations proved that the fuel supply connection broke during impact, providing a path for the fuel to escape, hence the fireball. Roman was also subjected to about 67 Gs of force during the impact. It took him 27 seconds to escape, even if Netflix's Drive to Survive made it look as though he was in there for about 10 minutes. His foot had been stuck when the car settled, but he managed to escape by removing it from the racing shoe. He was taken to the hospital where he was diagnosed with just a few burns and a broken leg. If it wasn't for the wonders of modern F1 safety, there's no way he'd be with us. It's good to see how modern safety measures like the Halo managed to save his life. There's no doubt that Lewis Hamilton has struggled with COVID-19. Okay, you've got us. Claiming Hamilton almost died from COVID-19 is about as accurate as Hamilton telling his chief engineer that his tires are gone. But given that so many across the globe have sadly died from it, it's a scary moment when anyone gets the virus. Hamilton has also suffered the effects of long COVID, which has affected his fitness in 2021. While COVID might not have come close to taking his life, Hamilton may no longer be with us if it wasn't for the Halo. In the 2021 Monza GP, Max Verstappen flew on top of his car with his wheel landing on Hamilton's head. Thankfully, the Halo took most of the impact, but Lew was still left with the tire marks on his helmet. Hopefully, with the advancements of F1 safety, we'll continue to have drivers who almost died rather than the ultimate fate. If you like this video, then please subscribe to our channel for more amazing F1 content, and while you're here, check out our other videos too.